Scoring really well on the ASVAB can mean the difference between a really great job in the military and a not as great job in the military. As someone who scored a 99 on the ASVAB yesterday, which is August 13th, 2020, I am here to share with you how I earned that score and hopefully how you can do the same to get whatever job you are aiming for. I do have a list of tips, so let's get started. Tip number 1 is initially take a practice test. You can find these for free all over the internet, so just take one. Don't study for it, don't do any research about it, just take it. That's what I did, just to see what's on the test, what I need to work on, what's a little bit harder for me, and what's really easy for me. That led to my next tip, which is invest in really good study materials. Study materials can make or break you when it comes to test day. So I recommend doing your research, finding which materials are going to work best for your study habits, and going with that, even if it does take a bit of investment. So for me, I bought the Kaplan 2020 to 2021 prep test book. I will show you that. Looks like this. I asked my recruiter for recommendations. I looked on the internet to see the ratings of different ASVAB test prep books, and I looked on like Quora and Reddit and YouTube to see what was most recommended, and this is the book that I came up with. The second most recommended book that I came up with was ASVAB for Dummies. I only wanted to buy one book, so this is the one I went with because Kaplan's known for educational materials. But do what is best for you and commit to it. Really work at it. My next tip is to research what job you want and what scores are required for that job. So as someone who's going into the Air Force, we call them AFSCs, Air Force Specialty Codes. But if you're going into the Army, I believe it's called an MOS. It might be as well for the Marine Corps, and I think the Navy calls them ratings. So each branch has different things that they call their jobs. But find out what job you want, and if that job requires special scores in like a particular area or an overall score with your AFQT, things like that. That will help you know how to focus your time effectively, which leads to tip number 4. Focus your studies on areas that you struggle with. Do not waste your time going over things that you're really confident in. ASVAB test prep doesn't typically last very long for a lot of people. For me, it was about 3 to 4 weeks from the time I started looking into the ASVAB to the time I took the test. So not a very long period of time. So you should focus your studies well and use your time effectively. If you do have time after you feel confident with the areas that you weren't initially confident with, then you can spend some time brushing up on the things you're more confident with. So for me, what that looked like was really focusing on math at first, then studying the science and the technicals like electronics, mechanics, auto shop stuff. And then saving the verbal stuff, the word knowledge and paragraph comprehension, as well as the assembling objects for last, because I was really confident in those. I actually didn't even study them because I felt that confident. But if you want to brush up, save that for the last if you have time left over. If not, just don't stress about it. Next is to take more practice tests. You're not going to know if what you're doing is working until you take practice tests and see how much your score improves. There's not really a good way, I don't think there is a way at all actually, to score your practice tests, at least the ones in the physical books like this. But you know if you got more questions right versus more questions wrong. And so taking practice tests and seeing the progress that you're making is not only helpful for gauging where you need to focus more on, but it's also really helpful for encouraging you to know how well you're doing and to see that progress that you're making. My next tip is, on the day of the test, make sure your papers are in order. I did not do this, and it bit me in the butt. I was number 4 in line to go into MEPS that morning, and I was like, okay, this is great. I got like 30, 40 people behind me. I'm like up here ready to go. Let's do this. I walked in, and the very first piece of paper that I showed the nurse, because it's COVID right now, you have to show the nurse everything first. That very first piece of paper was wrong. The second blank that I filled in was wrong. And I ended up having to drive all the way back to my recruiter's office to get her to sign a new paper, because you're not allowed to just scratch it out. They won't accept that. So make sure your papers look good before you go. And also, I would honestly, if your recruiter is not coming with you, I would recommend sending them a picture of the papers that you're filling out so that they can tell you if it's right or wrong beforehand. And if it's wrong, you can go get a new form, and hopefully they will fill it out with you. That would be really helpful. And also, you should request extras of the papers just in case something is still wrong. You don't have to drive back to your recruiter's office like me. You can just like fill it out in the parking lot, go right back, and be good. Let's see. Tip number 7 is fairly simple. This is same thing for every test ever. Sleep well the night before. Get a full night's sleep. Don't be staying up partying. Don't drink. Don't do anything that you shouldn't be doing. And make sure that you are well rested. Eat a good breakfast. And this isn't like Lucky Charms cereal or just a like quick half a granola bar. Like, no, make sure this is a good breakfast. Research what good testing foods are. I am not a nutritionist, so I am not going to try to tell you what to eat, but make sure that it's good. And do not cram. I did cram because cramming is how I study and how I do well, but that is not typical, and I don't recommend cramming. I don't think anyone else recommends cramming. You need to not be stressing about it the day of or the day before. You need to be confident by that time and just ready to go. Also, I would recommend praying. I rely on God for literally everything. So I was praying. I had my close family members praying, and the close friends in my life who are aware of my enlistment process, I had them praying as well. So I had a lot of spiritual support going into this. And even if you're not a spiritual or religious person, I do just feel like that's helpful for building your confidence and knowing that it's going to be okay even if you do fail and it sucks. You know, you've got a good support system, and it shows that they care because they are praying for you. And then finally, be confident. You've got this. You are joining the United States military. That's a big deal. Even if you don't score as high as you wish you could, like, God bless you for wanting to serve your country. Thank you for wanting to join this wonderful brotherhood and sisterhood of people who are willing to give their lives for this amazing country. If you're joining the Air Force, then aim high, fly, fight, win, and I hope to see you out in the operational Air Force soon. God bless you all. You got this.